Hello, welcome to Truth Be Known, a show about how tech leaders make decisions. I am executive producer Ben Wilson, and your host for this show is Lauren Vaccarello, CMO of Talend. On today's episode, Lauren interviews Scott Holden, CMO of ThoughtSpot. And since this is our first episode of the show, we wanted to let you know a little bit about what to expect. Each episode, Lauren will interview a guest, and her conversation centers around two questions. What is the hardest decision you've had to make in your current job, and what is the hardest decision you have had to make in your career? Before each interview, we have a segment called Opening Thoughts, where Lauren shares a short story or a few stray thoughts that she's had recently. So without further ado, let's get into the first episode, Lauren's opening thoughts, after this break. Truth Be Known is brought to you by Talend. A leader in data integration and data integrity, Talend enables every company to find clarity amidst the chaos. Talend Data Fabric brings together in a single platform all the necessary capabilities that ensure enterprise data is complete, clean, compliant, and readily available to everyone who needs it throughout the organization. Learn more at talend.com. That's TALEND.com.
So today is our inaugural episode of Truth Be Known, and I've been thinking, when's the time to be brave? I've been thinking about courage, especially as it relates to decision making. Every day I try to be courageous in the decisions I make at work. I'll try to put myself out there and push things forward. So I'm starting this podcast, and I guess that does take some courage, because at the end of the day, you all might hate it and leave me 1-star reviews on iTunes. And ultimately, it takes courage to do anything noteworthy in your career. The courage to put your reputation on the line and to risk failure. The courage to be the woman in the ring, to paraphrase what Teddy Roosevelt had said. But it feels pretty hollow to use words like courage and bravery for business decisions, when today we see people who are taking real risks and pushing for social change. When you see people fighting for something with life or death consequences and risking their careers and their safety and their lives to do it, it can really make business decisions seem insignificant for comparison. But it shouldn't be. As Brené Brown pointed out in The Gifts of Imperfection, courage in the small things can lead to courage in the big things. She wrote, "Courage is like a habit or virtue. You get it by courageous acts. You learn to swim by swimming. You learn to courage by couraging." So in other words, how are you going to be courageous in the big things if you aren't courageous in the little things? Our careers are just another piece of our lives, and they're a place where we need to put into practice the things that we value most. So when's the right time to be brave? It's right now. I hope that wasn't too intense. I swear this isn't that heavy of a show. It just feels weird to have a show and not start off talking about things that are happening in the world right now. Having said all that, on today's episode, we've got an incredible interview with Scott Holden, the Chief Marketing Officer of ThoughtSpot. Scott's someone I've known for years and I really respect. He's a leader in the data and technology space, and it was really interesting to hear about how he thinks about making big decisions and how that process has helped him drive growth and success at ThoughtSpot. So let's get to it. Welcome to Truth Be Known. Welcome, Scott.
It's great to be here, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. Scott is the Chief Marketing Officer at ThoughtSpot. So Scott, let's kick off. How'd you get started in tech?
Oh boy. Well, it's a roundabout story, maybe like a lot of folks. I tell people marketing's my third career. I started off as an investment banker, and I did mergers and acquisitions for JP Morgan, covering tech companies. So that was step one. Step two, I wanted to get my hands dirty in an operating role, and I joined Walmart.com in their operations group with a kind of a strong financial focus. And I think the big turning point for me, because I probably could have taken my career in a lot of directions, was I built an app for Walmart.com that decided what package should ship from which distributor on which carrier, sort of an optimization engine for the e-commerce business. And I just had a ton of fun doing it. And I think that process combined with operations. I found it when we were in high growth mode, it was super sexy and fun. But then as we got our growth slowed and we became more stable, it started to become a bit more exception processing. And so the idea of building new things or marketing new things started to kind of get my attention. And that's when I decided to go back to business school. And I was thinking about product management or product marketing. And I wanted to go work for a company like Salesforce. I actually wrote my business school applications about it. And that happened. I got an offer from Salesforce. And as I was talking to them, it was kind of that crystallization between product management and product marketing became more clear. And product marketing seemed to be a little bit more customer facing, at least in the way Salesforce defined the roles, which appealed to me more than being developer facing. And there you have it. And so began my marketing career in enterprise software. I was at Salesforce for a long run, and then now at ThoughtSpot for the last almost 6 years.
That's amazing. And 6 years running marketing at ThoughtSpot. And I love what you said about, you wanting to be somewhere that's exciting and fast growing and a high growth, that things are constantly changing. And it sounds like 6 years at ThoughtSpot has been just all of those things. Tell me about ThoughtSpot, what it does, what gets you excited about the company every day.
Sure. So ThoughtSpot's a next generation analytics platform. And the easiest way to think of us, our vision as a company is to make analytics as easy as your favorite app. And so, a lot of analytics products over the years, the analytics industry has been around for a few decades, can do a lot of really cool things. Visualization has been kind of the hottest thing, and it's amazing what you can do with these products, but most of the people that use them are pretty technical, highly trained data analysts. You have to go to lots of training classes to be able to do all these cool things. Our vision as a company is that anybody should be able to go ask their own data questions of their data and get their own answer and not have to be dependent on someone else. And so that's what we do. Today we work with some of the largest companies in the world. So Walmart, Hulu, Medtronic, Hilton, anywhere where there's a lot of people and a lot of data and people are struggling to get access to that data quickly and easily, that's where you'll find us.
No, that's awesome. And we love ThoughtSpot at Talent. And we have such a similar point of view that data is critical to make decisions. You can't make business decisions without having access to data, without having access to the data that you can trust. And a product like ThoughtSpot really being able to put that data in the hands of everybody can fundamentally change how businesses operate.
Absolutely. I mean, it's there's this sad thing that happens in the world of data where the products have been so historically complex that oftentimes people have a question and it takes so long to get answered that they just make the call, by their gut. They get impatient. And one of the things that we talk about at ThoughtSpot is that we don't want people to have a curiosity tax. If you think it's going to be so hard for you to go get that answer, that the sad reality is people stop asking questions. And that's what's wrong with like sort of the dashboard paradigm. You'll hear analysts like Gartner say that the dashboard is dying. And we totally agree, because the dashboards are great, but if you build your dashboard correctly, it should beg another question. And that next question usually creates a whole cycle of trying to figure out how to answer it, involving lots of data people, and it can take, weeks, months. And that's the process that we're trying to short circuit by making it easy for everybody.
And I read this stat that I'm completely going to get slightly wrong from Gartner, that it's like 80% of time is spent looking for data versus actually using that data to take action and to do something with it. And if all we're doing is building dashboards, it's great to have that, but I need to know really what's going on. And the putting the hands of data back into your constituents so you can really make decisions for your business is critical for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the data pipeline has been over time just a total mess. And at ThoughtSpot, we look at ourselves as trying to solve, the last mile of access, make it easy for people once it's been set up. We typically sit on top of data warehouses, making that last mile of consuming, finding your own insights easy. But I know at Talent and numerous other companies around the data ecosystem are trying to make the rest of the pipeline a lot faster, because let's face it, it's been fraught with challenges for years now.
Oh, completely. And the way I look at data is you need access to data that's complete. It can't be from one place. The world of I only need data from one data source is gone. And I know at ThoughtSpot, you're pulling data from tons of non-traditional sources. And it needs to be complete. It needs to be clean. I need to know what's in it. I need to be able to trust what's in there. And I need data in real time. If I don't have data in real time, if I'm making decisions based on data that's a month old, it's worthless. And I keep finding as a marketer, sort of I hate that I talk about this all the time, is go to market in a COVID world is completely different. Pattern recognition is gone. The ability to say, I'm going to make this decision and this data is good enough. It's a little bit old. It's close enough. If I make decisions based on information like that, it is the fate of the company. It's the growth of the company. It's the fate of employees. Now more than ever, I need to be able to trust my data. I need it in real time, and I need to know that it's going to work.
You know, the hottest trend in business right now is digital transformation. Obviously, it's been accelerated by COVID, but it's this last mile concept, or the whole reason why companies are so focused on digital transformation is that when transactions, customer engagements become digital, they become trackable and they become analyzable. And that's really the whole, holy grail of digital transformation, is that you can actually get more data, use it to analyze what's happening better, and make smarter decisions. And if at any point, that whole pipeline breaks down, it's coming too slow, certain people can't see it, you're doing all of the great work that you put into digital transformation a disservice because the last mile is broken.
Exactly. I don't know if you know this about Domino's. Like, Domino's as a company, I think, is fascinating because Domino's had access to a tremendous amount of data. They started to see that one of the most profitable ways for them to actually deliver pizza was not to take requests and orders from the places you think. It was really from digital channels. It was from social media. It was letting people order a pizza inside of a video game. And they started to see that that was a more profitable way versus someone picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'd like to order a medium pizza. So once they had that data and that information, it completely shifted their strategy to, how do I partner with a gaming company so I can click a button while someone's playing a video game? And that's the power of data.
I love that story. It's a little scary. Never leave your gaming console again. Everything at your fingertips, including pizza. But yeah, spot on. I mean, that's the type of insight that companies can find. And it doesn't surprise me at all that that's a more efficient channel for Domino's.
And I know you're doing really incredible things at ThoughtSpot right now, and you are really on the forefront of how to make data-driven decisions. And I feel like as marketers, we always talk about being data-driven, but knowing a lot about what you've been working on, I feel like you've got some great stories around this. So if I think about you, I think about what you're doing at ThoughtSpot. Tell me a hard decision that you've had to make in your current role. What's something that you really had to dig through and dig on, and you got to a better outcome because of it?
Yeah, well, it's funny, as an analytics company, one of the cool things is that I am patient zero at ThoughtSpot. So I joined the company basically right when we started selling the product. And so I was one of the very first people to use it. And, given my banking background that I talked about, I've always been a bit of a data geek. And it's been fun to go on the same journey that our customers are going on with data. And so, our data strategy is probably not that dissimilar to a lot of the folks that you work with, a lot of the people listening. We have Snowflake as our cloud data warehouse. I've got, key data sources or Salesforce, and Pardot is my marketing automation system, Mixpanel and Medallia and the Service Cloud, and Bamboo HR is our HR system, Coupa for POs. All of that is analyzable now in ThoughtSpot. And so, I'm a former Salesforce veteran, and we used to always say if it wasn't in Salesforce, it didn't happen. I have the same approach now with ThoughtSpot. If it's not in ThoughtSpot, I don't want to look at it or analyze it. And so everything that I look at in my world comes through an analytical lens. And the power of that is that you can merge lots of different data sets together and get a more cohesive view of what's happening with the business. And so, we look at data all the time to make decisions, and it's if it's done right, it actually helps you sleep at night, because you're not just making something up on a whim. You're actually using it, something rooted in fact to make the call. And I'll give you an example of a big decision that we've had to make, and that I've had to make recently, relevant to just what's going on in the world today. Everything around COVID and what is now an accelerated shift to digital transformation. It's happening inside our company. And so we're launching a new product. This is late August. We're going to launch this product at the end of September. It's a new cloud offering, ThoughtSpot Cloud. And this will be a fully managed SaaS offering for ThoughtSpot. And typical value prop in terms of all of the things that people are turning to SaaS products to do these days, which is not have to worry about the hardware and the software. But with that shift has been a few other kind of things that we've had to consider very strategically as a go-to-market. And so to cut to the chase, the big decision that I made is that I basically pivoted our marketing strategy radically from what I was planning to do this year to what we're going to do now. And it's kind of a two-part story. One is COVID has accelerated our move to launching this product. We're probably doing this, 6 to 12 months faster than we'd initially planned. And then two, it's really one of the big things that's happening in our industry, and I'm sure you're seeing it, is the rise of the cloud data warehouse. And so, you've seen the news about Snowflake, their $20 billion IPO on the horizon. They're another partner of ours, and they really push the industry forward. Redshift is, I think they're pushing the performance of Redshift, and Google BigQuery and Microsoft. That whole ecosystem is just thriving right now. And as an enterprise analytics company, ThoughtSpot, we typically sit on top of data warehouses. And the cloud rising quickly really kind of gave us the confidence to move faster in our own cloud offering. And so the big decision I had to make as a marketer is, okay, this new product's coming out. It's happening fast. I'll tell you that my strategy, starting 6 months ago, kind of the beginning of the year, we've always sold to heads of analytics. So think of, the VP of BI at a big company. We've probably historically been a good person that we've spent time making sure they understand ThoughtSpot. But most of the time, our customers who buy us are, heads of business units. So I'm thinking of the COO of Verizon, and I'm trying to think of other big companies that of, the head of merchandising at Walmart, the CFO at Walmart, the person that runs media for Hulu. So big companies, those are the folks that more and more tend to end up being buyers. And coming into the year, I was putting all of my marketing focus on those line of business buyers. And knowing that, the analytics market, we've sort of been talking to for a long time, I really wanted to go after those folks. And we launched a big campaign around banking. We partnered with The Economist and did a great piece on, AI-driven insights with The Economist, and put a lot of money behind that. We launched a big brand campaign called Meet the New Decision Makers with HBR, all about helping business people get more data into the hands of their folks on the front lines. And so all that's been going great. And that, a couple great pieces of work that I'm super proud of. And, I think they were the right strategies for the right time 6 months ago. Fast forward to today, and all that's changed. And so as this product comes to market, the decision that we made is to really double down on the buyer or the persona that we call the cloud data leader, the person that's just made a big strategic decision to buy one of the new cloud data warehouses, whether that's Snowflake or Redshift or BigQuery. And they tend to be innovators and change agents in their business. And they've just got this incredible new thing that's scalable, and they bought it for agility, and they want to be able to democratize insights. And we're a great partner for that. So rather than go knocking on all the doors of the line of business, we've shifted to go after this key persona. And I'll unpack that a little bit because there was a lot of data behind it that was sort of giving me the conviction to make that call, because I just put all these great campaigns in the market and I was sort of doing a little happy dance. And then the world changes and it's like, okay, what should we do? So to unpack the data a little bit, one of the challenges as a marketer, and you know this, Lauren, is that if you're trying to market to every business unit and lots of different titles, first of all, you have to spend a lot of money creating content that's bespoke for lots of different people. And then when you spread your ad dollars out, just pick your channel, and you've got to create different campaigns for different personas. The catnip, the algorithms of these platforms don't like that. They like you to be super targeted, super focused, and to go big. And when you do that, you end up finding the people that are most interested, and that does a magical thing. It drives down your cost per lead. And so as a marketer, that was something that I was seeing as we launched these new campaigns. Everybody loved them, but our cost per lead, given the way we were going to market, was creeping up. And so that was something that I was keeping my eye on. It also was a little less efficient because in line of business folks end up being the people who ultimately fund us, but they typically need a data partner to help them. Like, you and I don't know much about data warehouses unless you've been doing a lot of studying that I didn't know about, Lauren. But like, I've never managed a data warehouse. And so as a marketer or CMO, you need a partner, and that part wasn't going to go away. And so that was a big shift for us to try and find someone who just made a bet on something transformational attached to them, and teach them the value, and then make a bet that they'd be, sort of champions and kind of give us the warm introductions that we need to the business folks who are putting data into the data warehouse that they just bought.
Yes, and I love that story. And I think there's so many key messages in there. And part of it for me is this courage to walk away from success, because the campaign that you're describing, and you're in The Economist and you're in HBR, and you're talking to the COO of big companies. This is in so many ways an enterprise marketer's sort of dream campaign, what you're working on. Things are going really well. But you looked at it and said, this is going well right now. I have these data points. I have these signals that say the world is changing. And do I do something? Do I have the courage to walk away from success and say, if I don't do this now, this is going to hurt me later. And I'm going to, I feel like I use the word pivot too much, but I am going to pivot to do something completely unknown. But what's really cool is, I know you have great instincts, but you didn't do this based on instincts. You did this based on, here's these data points, here's these signals that I see, and I'm seeing these, and I could say, no, I'm amazing, I'm perfect, everything I've ever done has been perfect, this is good. Or I can look at these signals and say, now is the time to change and to be bold.
Exactly. And there were I'd say there were three things. It was cost per lead, seeing that as a key lever. The other was sales cycle length. And so while we knew we always have to talk to the line of business, they'll be involved all the time, but we found that going that way, you still had to come back around through the data teams anyway. And so trying to shrink that process with the hope that the cloud data leaders could take this and like move faster than perhaps going the line of business route first. And this is all about kind of, I'm looking at this from a campaign lens. Where am I going to get the most efficient dollar spend to get the sales cycles that we want? And then the last piece is just conversion. And, I think there's the bet that we're making, and it's super early days, is that if you've just done something pretty transformational for your business and made a big data bet on the cloud, you're probably likely to also make a similar bet on a newish technology like ThoughtSpot, and bring search and AI to that investment to try and make it even a higher ROI. And so that piece we think is also going to impact conversion rates down funnel for us. And there's another component to it, which is even evaluating our pricing model and how that works. And that's an area where, Lauren, you and I were at Salesforce at the same time. In my time there, I don't think there was anything that we did that was more impactful to the business than changes in pricing and packaging. And so we've actually bundled that piece in as well to try and align our go-to-market on what is a pretty big shift. And so marketing that component will be another kind of, fourth leg of the stool, if you will.
It is. I feel like you and I are going through so much of the same journey right now on pricing and packaging as well. And it's really, really interesting to look at how all of these different pieces work together. And it's the insight for everybody to say, you can have data, but it's really about what you do with it. You're looking at cost per lead, and then you're looking at other factors and going, this is how this ties together. This is what this means. This is the story from the data that I'm seeing. And based on that, I'm going to hard shift the business because I think this is a better long-term viable option. And what's happening outside of that you mentioned is this much bigger macroeconomic trend that's happening in the world of people shifting to cloud, businesses shifting to cloud data warehouses. That market is completely exploding right now. And you've hit the nail on the head that businesses are changing and are looking for new ways to operate. It's the democratization of data is happening more and more and more. And the average business person in a business unit wants access to data. They want to be able to get it faster. We don't want to wait. And I still remember being at Salesforce and having to use business objects to pull something.
Me too. At Salesforce in the 2010s.
And you're sitting there going, okay, how good is your SQL? And you're going to run your business objects query. And that's how we operate.
Go out to lunch, wait for it to return. Yes.
And hopefully it wasn't too big of a query, or you didn't do something wrong, so you didn't have to start the whole thing over. And that used to be what we did. That's not how the world works anymore.
It's a brave new world now, and it's funny. I'll give you one customer story. One of the big COVID is, it's disrupted so much, right? And it's been it's tough on us in many ways, but it's also created some opportunity in different businesses. And so I think a lot of companies are just trying to figure out, okay, the world moved. How do I shift my strategy to move with it? And one of the, we had a big bright spot. One of our customers, Canadian Tire, had a great story in the Wall Street Journal last week. And like a lot of retailers, their in-store business is struggling, but their e-commerce business is just taken off. And it's actually more than made up for the difference. They just reported last quarter 20% sales growth off the back of a super strong e-commerce performance. And they were able to use data to their advantage. And ThoughtSpot's been a big partner for them in that. And that, if you think about what happened with COVID, a lot of us changed our buying habits. So, like me, I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so I bought a little bouncy house for my backyard here in San Francisco, which I would have probably never bought before. People are buying bikes, people are buying freezers. And so Canadian Tire looked at their top 1,000 SKUs and they said, we want to make sure that we're optimizing the things that are sort of spiking that we had no idea about. And one of the things about this new data world that we live in is that thanks to the power of these new data warehouses and technology like ThoughtSpot that can let you get to that granular insight using a search or AI interface, they were able to look at those 1,000 SKUs and figure out what inventory we have, what are the trends, forecast those, and really focus on the things that were moving their business during these crazy times. And that's the new world. That's what we want to empower people to be able to say, okay, somebody moved my cheese. It doesn't matter. Let's look at the data. Let's go figure it out. And let's make the most of it.
100%. And it's don't be emotionally tied to what you've done in the past. It's the world has changed. Something has changed. Now let's do something about it versus going, well, this is hard. Bouncy house is our number one seller. Great. We are doubling down in bouncy houses.
Yes.
Yes.
You make the kids happy while you're at it.
You know what? There needs to be some way to tire them out. So
they're kind of fun too. I have to say, I might have spent a few minutes in the bouncy house myself over lunch.
It's good exercise.
It is. It's fun.
And then I know you get to do all of this at ThoughtSpot. Can you tell me something that you've done in a previous role or in a past life I love these stories and these sort of lessons about what are the decisions we make when we have the right information, when we have the right data, when we have things where you're not just relying on hope and a guess.
Yeah, it's funny in the context of kind of what's happening in the world right now. I was thinking back on something that happened recently, again, related to Snowflake a little bit. Frank Slootman's just joined them from ServiceNow as their CEO. And this story also relates to Frank back from when I was at Salesforce. There was a point in time I ran marketing for the platform businesses the last 2 years of my experience at Salesforce. This was like 2013 and 14. And the platform at Salesforce is about helping customers build custom applications. And Salesforce rose to power for sales and marketing and customer service, selling around IT. And my job was to market a product for companies to build custom apps, typically that were not in sales, marketing, service. They were in other departments, finance or HR. And so one of the kind of prevailing philosophies was like, well, let's do the same thing. Let's just go sell to those business lines and go around IT. And a couple of key things sort of emerged for me. If you follow the Salesforce ecosystems, as marketers, we obviously know it well. They have this massive machinery around Dreamforce and their Cloudforce tours. Salesforce pioneered a very original strategy to do their own marketing events and nothing else for years and years. And what I found, and I'll tie it back to Frank, is that there was a point there in about 2013, as we were looking at data and looking at win rates, this little company called ServiceNow popped up. And it was sort of like, in our staff meeting, sort of like week after week, month after month, it's like, that number against them is going the wrong way. And we need to do something about it. And the thing that I came up with at the time, which was sort of contrary to everything that Salesforce's ethos had said, was we need to go sell to IT and we need to make them champions. And we need, and IT folks, like, they buy a certain way. And for us to be so bold, it's gotten us obviously very far in the world. Salesforce is where it is, especially looking at what their stock's doing now. They're doing a tremendous job. But in the IT arena back in 2013, they were still, just figuring that out. And so I remember being like, let's go make a bet on IT. Let's choose them as a persona. And I remember it like basically saying, like, we should go sponsor another event, like a Gartner event, their application development event, that we'd never sponsored a Gartner event in the entire time that I'd been there across the company.
Which is insane.
Which was crazy. For all the B2B enterprise sellers out there to be like, wait, you've never sponsored an event other than your own? But that was the state of things at Salesforce, and it was obviously working. But for this particular product and this particular time, where ServiceNow really owned the IT persona, and that's why they were winning. And so that was the key insight there, is that we have to go make IT our champions as well. We were still trying to sell HR use cases and finance use cases, but we needed IT people to get buy-in. So I launched a campaign there called IT Visionaries, which is actually started off as a blog series and a print campaign, and then it's morphed into one of the more popular podcasts on the internet now. It's still running as a IT Visionaries podcast, and that shift was a really big one, driven by data and win rates going the wrong way against ServiceNow.
No, and that's incredible. And that's exactly what data is supposed to do. It shouldn't be this static thing that you look at on a dashboard or in a report. It's what's the insight you're getting from it and what can you actually do about it? And if you look at where Salesforce has gone from we don't really talk to IT people, to IT visionaries, to trailblazers, to everything that they've done to really show the IT person as the hero. And that comes from, here's an insight based on data. This doesn't make sense. And it's also we had this assumption, this is how the world worked, but something changed. And something changed, and we're not going to hold on to the past. Something changed. So what do we do about it? And I just always think about and I know people talk about this all the time, but it's the Blockbuster Netflix. something changed. And unfortunately, Blockbuster couldn't fathom changing. They were emotionally tied to the past. And it's so easy when you see success to get tied to success because that's what works. But when things change, it's really easy for success to be your blind spot and to miss the world has changed, something bigger has shifted, and how are we going to shift accordingly? So I love that example for everybody too. And it's had you not had that real-time insight, had you not had that piece of information, platform could be in a really different place right now.
Very true. Yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to, in particular, to go against your strength, and that was a very tricky move. And I think at first I started small, and then as it got traction, I went bigger and bigger. And yeah, those are the fun moments, when you try. I mean, I know at least for me, and I'm sure it is for you, us marketers like doing new things.
Yes.
And so that was one that paid off and treated us really well. So it was a lot of fun to do.
No, it is. And it's as marketers, we should be the organization that is bold, that is taking more chances, partially because I think it's what excites most of us, but we are the tip of the spear in pretty much everything.
True. It's, I just saw a stat the other day that, something like 80 some odd % of CEOs are looking to marketers to be the growth agents in their companies. And in an environment like COVID right now, on the one hand, you go, oh boy, here we go. On the other hand, yeah, bring it. That's the opportunity. I mean, that's what, trying to figure out new ways to grow is what fires me up. I know that's what fires you up. And it just sometimes requires us to be creative, especially in crazy times like this.
100%. And I've heard so much and had so many questions on what is it like being a marketer during COVID? And it's harder. And I will not make light of the situation in the world. And it's not just COVID, it's fires and hurricanes and social unrest. And I'm sure aliens are coming soon and everything else that's going to happen.
There's a meteor. I heard
there's a meteor on election day just because we needed more. And
yes.
There's so much that is happening that makes our jobs harder. But what I really look at this time is this is the opportunity for us to become better than we ever thought possible. The hard times are where all of us grow and thrive, because you wouldn't put yourself in a situation that's this hard. You would never choose this. But when it comes in front of you, and you have access to great data, you can make really good decisions. You can inspire an organization to change, to do more, to lead. And you can have a lot of fun doing it. And these are the times that this is what I, as an optimist, aspire for, is this is an incredibly hard time for everybody. I can tell you my department is working more hours than we thought humanly possible. We are constantly changing because this worked for 3 months, but now we have Zoom fatigue. So now we have to do something else. And now we have to do something else. And now we need new messaging. And then. And it's a lot, but I keep going. Is this the time we look back on going, I would have never chosen that, but wow, that was a wild ride. And I am so much better at what I do because what I learned during that, and that's what made me who I am as a marketer, as a business person, as a leader, as a CDO. And I have to hope that that's actually what's happening now.
I totally agree. I think there is a silver lining to all of this. And from my perspective, it's been an opportunity for companies to take a hard look at themselves with a real strategic lens and say, okay, times are tough. What can we be doing differently? And sometimes I think we just need a little permission to do that, to look at the sacred cows and question them. And, COVID has been the nudge I think we all probably need to do more often. And so I've certainly been trying to look at it with a positive light, keep people focused on, the things that they can control. And there's, when you step back, there's a lot more in your control than you might initially think when you look at the bigger picture.
I completely agree with you. I want this to be that for all of us. Scott, it has been amazing having you on this. I feel like I could talk to you for 3 more hours, and we didn't even talk about all the Salesforce stories we both could have talked about.
Only one.
Only one. So this is hopefully will be the fun part. Do you want to do some quick hits, some rapid fire questions? You should be familiar with rapid fire questions on my podcast.
Oh, they're fun. Bring it.
Okay, ready? Other than the bouncy house, what habit or hobby did you pick up during shelter in place?
Yeah. Well, this has been, it's been just like our work lives, trying new things. I've definitely tried a couple of new things here. I'll give you 2 things. One, my wife has been trying to get me to do some kind of, newfangled exercise stuff with her for years. And I've always had an excuse not to do it. Now she's doing it right in the middle of our living room. It's been really hard for me to say no. And so the thing that I started doing with her is this thing called Pilates HIIT. So it's a combination of Pilates and high intensity interval training. And, I'm not a young man anymore. And my lower back has been, especially now that we just sit or stand in front of our computers in one spot all day, has really needed some extra love. And so that has been a really healthy and fun new, workout routine for me. And then I just have to share this thing I did just last weekend. The family escaped to Lake Tahoe, just a short, not that short of a drive away from San Francisco. And I tried something brand new, which I'd never done before, which is these electric powered surfboards called e-foils. Mm. And a friend of mine just got it. And I think there was a crazy photo of Mark Zuckerberg riding one the other day on the internet. And it's basically a surfboard that's battery charged with a propeller under it that kind of lifts up out of the water, and you have a remote control in your hand. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And, I hadn't been up to Lake Tahoe in the summer in a couple of years. Life moves fast. And so this was an opportunity for us to go spend a week up there. I was actually working all week, and I found a little time on the weekend to do this, but it was super cool. So if any of you have friends that have those or get an opportunity to try it out, I highly, highly recommend it. It's crazy.
That sounds like a lot more fun than a sourdough starter, which is what I've heard from several people.
No, I have not. I've done some cooking, but I can't say I've been too crazy with my cooking.
Nor I. So what, if you weren't CMO, what would you be doing?
Oh gosh, I like this question because it lets me fantasize a little bit. And if I wasn't in this line of work, the thing that I would love to do is be a movie director. I would love to direct movies. I just, you know me pretty well, Lauren. I tend to, I like obsessing over details, I'm a visual person. I like writing stories and scripts. I like bringing them to life with kind of visual interest. And I would love to have a big Hollywood budget and be able to play with all those crazy special effects and do something super cool.
That would be fun. See, now I have a better understanding on why you made the best customer videos.
Yeah, I sometimes will tell people that, like, when I was a kid, I wanted to either be an artist, a movie director, or a teacher. And little did I know this, it took me a long time to find this kind of enterprise marketing calling, but I get to do little pieces of that. There's this like teaching, I oftentimes have to tell the story of the products to customers. There's a little bit of that directing, movie making that happens with marketing. So I feel like there's the components there that satisfy my itch in somewhat of an unconventional, or maybe a way that people might not think about off the bat.
Like that. What is your favorite book or podcast that you've binged on recently?
Boy, I'll start by saying, God bless Apple. They've changed my life with all these products they come out with, truthfully. The AirPods, I'm embarrassed to admit that I went for a long stretch without reading books. And then something happened with the invention of these AirPods where I can listen to things while I exercise. I went for a jog this morning and was listening to a book. I'll give you 2 answers. I'll give you a book and a podcast. I've been consuming tons of podcasts. In fact, on the podcast front, for everybody listening here, ThoughtSpot has a podcast called Data Chief, actually, and that's something that you all would probably like. So I'll make a plug for that if you want to hear from more folks like yourselves. On the book front, the book I read or I listened to most recently is The Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. And I just started Shoe Dog. That's what I was listening to this morning by Phil Knight, which is the CEO of Nike. But I love Bob Iger's book. I finished that a couple of weeks ago, and the stories behind how he bought Pixar and how he bought Lucasfilms and how he bought Marvel and how he bought, what's the other one I'm missing? There's one other bigger one in there that I forgot. But the deal making at that level with Hollywood and with those celebrities was just fascinating. And he sounds like, I have no exposure to him at all, but he sounds like just a world-class stand-up guy. And so I really enjoyed hearing his stories.
And last question, what advice do you have for someone who is trying to become more data-driven and build this data-led decision-making organization?
Well, yeah, good question. So, I mean, as I mentioned that I was kind of patient zero at ThoughtSpot, I hired the first data engineer in the marketing team. And it was, I guess, about a year ago where we actually formalized a more serious data team, but it now only has 3 people across our whole company in it. And I think that speaks to the power of, the modern data stack, which is that I don't have a data analyst on my team. We all are able to, like, a data engineer who can set it up and bring in all the data sources and, sit it on top of a data warehouse. And, they do some transformations and some calculations, but they don't have to be pushing pixels around on dashboards anymore. We can all self-serve ourselves. Is a pretty cool format. But I have spent a lot of time, probably more so than most CMOs, because of our product and my evolution with it, kind of in the weeds, thinking about data sources, thinking about data warehouses. And I guess I'll give a couple pieces of advice. So, and they come from 2 different sides. What I see with sales and marketing teams, and Lauren, you and I know this at Salesforce, like Salesforce, for all its prowess, was really bad at data and operations and analytics. It basically was doing so well, it could kind of ignore some of those back office things. And one of my goals in kind of starting from scratch at ThoughtSpot was, like, I really wanted to shore up how we did things on that front. So sales and marketing advice. We all tend to move really fast and basically just say, like, let's just get it done. I just need this. I need that. Like, I don't have time to do that. I just hire somebody, give it to me, give me the spreadsheet, hire somebody to crunch it. I don't care. And I would encourage that mindset to just take a breath and slow down a little bit and think a couple steps ahead. Try and reward behavior for the folks on your team that do that. I've worked in other organizations where that behavior wasn't appreciated, and so people didn't do it. And what I found is that if you can get the kind of the building blocks, your warehouse, your structure, the kind of key questions that you want to ask set up in advance, and you're patient enough to try and solve that, it pays so many dividends down the road. We haven't hired, I talked to peers of ours, Lauren, that have, giant teams of, number crunchers offshore, just, trying to do their pipeline week after week. We'd have no one in the company doing that. It's all right there because it's been set up, and so it's like build it once and then you can kind of live off of it. On the other side of that equation, you have what I see happening more in the, IT and data side, where I hear things like, our data's messy, our data's too dirty, there's no way we can do it. We need to rebuild everything before we can do anything. And for those folks, I'd say, let's try to meet in the middle a little bit. There are things you can do. And so, pick off a couple of key things, like, stack rank your challenges. What questions can't you answer today that you wish you could? Let's find those use cases. Let's try and figure out a few things that we can do, start a little smaller, make a few bets. And that's, I think, the beauty of the world we're in now. You can make smaller bets today. The consumption-based pricing models, like, you can start out small and have a little win and then keep going. And I think that's why we're seeing, the cloud data warehouse market do so well. But that's the advice I'd give to the other side, which is, like, don't immediately put up the blockers and say you've got to rebuild everything. Start small, get traction, prove value, and take it from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. It's been amazing having you.
Truth Be Known is brought to you by Talend. A leader in data integration and data integrity, Talend enables every company to find clarity amidst the chaos. Talend Data Fabric brings together in a single platform all the necessary capabilities that ensure enterprise data is complete, clean, compliant, and readily available to everyone who needs it throughout the organization. Learn more at talend.com. That's TALEND.com.